Go on with it. Do us. So we are coming with a force. Yeah. Blessing the reap and we coursing on.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Shay Renee, and I am back to talk about Summer House season, I don't know. You'll see in the credits. Episode 3. All right. So this episode, we are starting off again with the Kyle tantrum. Okay. But let me say this to y'all. Danielle is way too involved in this situation, in my opinion. I don't think that Carl or Lindsay would stand up for her as much as she's done. Point taken, where last season, when the whole situation with Sierra and Lindsay happened, because Sierra was basically mad that Lindsay was trying to push up on Austin, even though she didn't really want Austin, or maybe she did, but she was just trying to make it seem like she had more clout to get Austin than Sierra did. And she was just really trying to piss Sierra off, really. So they had a whole situation. Danielle, of course, stuck her tooth in the situation. And then she ends up having an altercation with Sierra. Which, side note, Sierra is gorgeous, by the way. Every time I see her in scene, I'm just like, it's a girl crush kind of thing. Like, the girl is so... Like, I don't like women. Let me stop right there. I can admire a woman's beauty. But Sierra is very attractive. Beautiful skin, nice body type. Her hair always looks good. Like, I love, well-spoken. Sierra is beautiful. I just had to add that in there. But anyway, Sierra had the issue with Danielle last year where they had the whole little debacle. Lindsay wasn't sticking up for Danielle in that situation. She wasn't grabbing Sierra out of the, and taking up for her friend. So I don't understand why Danielle always seems to have to stick her mouth in every situation that has to do with Lindsay and Carl. And really, in my opinion, Danielle used to date Carl. So if you really as close to Lindsay as you say you is, I know you have Rob as your boyfriend and all that, Carl really should have been off limits. Because honestly, I think Carl really liked Danielle in the past, but he wasn't ready for Danielle. So now Danielle is in a relationship and moved on, and now, Carl is settling for Lindsay, in my opinion. But that's either here nor there. Everybody is who they're with, and that's what it is. But Danielle is really having way too many emotions over this situation. Now, I will give her some slight credit. Kyle shouldn't have been having that conversation in front of everybody in the group. I do understand that Kyle is upset that Carl is not holding his weight, but by the same token, Kyle, you need to remember that Carl is still your friend, and you can't keep on acting like you some great white hope that saved Carl. Now, I did see people on Twitter saying, "Oh, Kyle is not a good friend. He's only liked Carl when he's on doing bad or whatever." No. Let's not be delusional. Carl was losing jobs left and right because of his issues. And Carl, even though Kyle probably shouldn't have brought it back up about him and his powdery situation he had going on, Carl talked about it on the show. He said that he would go on binges and doing this and doing that. Carl has been very candid about why he needed to change his life. And I'm very proud of him for doing that. Kudos to Carl for seeing that he had issues and he needed to change. Carl had a lot of issues. He couldn't mentally and emotionally deal with his parents getting a divorce. That's where all of this sort of stemmed from. And Carl was very immature when he first started this show. We gotta go all the way back to how he was treating the twin girl that liked him. He's immature. He wasn't ready for a relationship, even though he was in his late 30s at this time, or mid 30s, because this has been on for 7 years, right? So he had to been in his mid 30s. But it's like Carl has found himself. He's moving on. Do I think that Lindsay is toxic? Lindsay is definitely pumping it up and trumping it up more than it really needs to be with a lot of this stuff. Because at the end of the day, Lindsay nor Danielle runs Loverboy. They don't know what day to day needs to be done, where Carl may be not doing what he's supposed to be doing or missing the boat with responsibilities. Like, you don't know that. So for y'all to sit up there and say that Kyle isn't doing right by him and Kyle isn't doing this, y'all not the ones writing Carl's appraisal. You don't know how to run Loverboy. So for y'all to be sitting up here taking up for Carl the way that you are, I really think that you have to understand both sides of where each of them is coming from. Now, Kyle, you can't keep throwing it in Carl's face that you gave him a job. Yes, was he getting fired from everywhere else left and right? Absolutely. But you can't keep throwing, this is also your friend. That's one of the hiccups when you are working with friends that you have to realize, okay? So, Kyle, you need to grab your balls and sit down and have a true conversation with your friend, okay? Because at this point, you're obviously not happy with the work that he's putting out. Carl absolutely is over here thinking that he is the highest asset to your business at this point. And, you know, because he said even to Danielle at the end of the first clip that the company literally wouldn't run without him. So with him thinking like this, there is definitely a gap in the communication. So anyway, you know, Danielle says her piece. She's still pissed over the situation with Kyle. Amanda takes Kyle out of the room, talks to him and says, listen, I want you to calm down. These people are our friends. We have to try to get through this. You need to take a couple deep breaths. And they do like some little fun breathing exercise where she's just trying to calm Kyle down, which I like this Amanda. I like Amanda supporting Kyle versus her last season where she was just sitting up there with her friends talking about her man and just kind of like not being an ally to him. I like the ally to Kyle, Amanda. I'm liking her right now. I hope it continues. Moving on. Gabby and Danielle. So I knew there was a reason why they showed that Coachella picture and blocked out the two faces. I was like, and I'm telling y'all, I said, I wonder if it's somebody in the house that was dating her boyfriend. Because why would they even put that picture up? But moving on. Sam switches seats with Gabby, and Gabby is over there talking to Danielle, and we uncover the fact that the dude that Gabby was so head over heels in love with, she had such a hard time getting over him. He went to Coachella, excuse me, y'all, with Danielle. So he was dating Danielle, and Danielle, they realized, didn't know that he was dating her at the same time as Gabby. So this is the guy that Gabby is just so crushed over. She was just so in love with him, and she couldn't seem to get into another relationship, child. And that's why she, excuse me, y'all, hanging out with her parents all the time. And, you know, she can't be with nobody else because the sun rose and set on homeboy's tail. So she realized who Danielle was, and she was saying that she was excited that she was going to be in the house and she wanted to get to know her or whatever. And Danielle was like, oh, I've been stalking your Instagram. And, you know, I'm like, okay, y'all, get to the damn point. So Gabby says that when she broke up with her boyfriend, she had all of his social media passwords, even LinkedIn. And she put this on all his pages. I'm a liar and a cheater. I don't deserve the girl who I claim to be my girlfriend for the past 4 years. Gabby Prescott is one of the best people I've ever met, and I have wasted her time and take advantage of her love and trust. I'm sorry for this, but it is a pattern of behavior. Now, Gabby, I'm going to tell you right now, you are flying over the cuckoo's nest. Oh, okay? I'm just going to tell you. This ain't what you want. You don't need to be doing stuff like this. It's giving very pressed and desperate. You see, when I broke up with people, I just stopped talking to them. Sometimes they didn't even know that I was no longer in a relationship with them. I would just, you know, hey, this isn't working out for me, and I would have that conversation with myself, and sometimes not them, and I would just walk away. Call it a cancer thing, I don't know. But yeah, I've had a lot of people get upset with me over that. But I'm not posting that. Yeah. Just not my bag to hold, not my thing, not my zhuzh, you know. I'm not doing all that. You cheat on me, you kick rocks. Okay? I'm done with you. Period. What are we doing? What are we doing here? There's so many other men out here in the world for me to be sitting here wasting my time on you and going to dinner with my parents talking about you because I'm so sad. No. Mm-mm. Maybe call me heartless. I don't know. And some of my friends actually used to say to me when I was younger, before I started dating my husband, I don't know how you do this. You just stop talking to people for the weirdest reasons, and you just leave situations like it's nothing. I need for women to start to learn to do that. I live in a world of, if it doesn't serve me, it won't unnerve me. Period. I'm not about to sit up here and be having all these emotions and crying over somebody that ain't crying over me, child. Okay? And that's that on that. So, after they have their little sisterly traveling of wearing, humping the same boy in the same pants conversation, then we go into them going to a party. Everybody parties, has a good old time. Kyle is swimming in the pool. Chris is out there swimming too. They drunk swimming, child. Maya goes upstairs in another room to work on her laptop and things. And Paige and Sierra are pissed because they like, girl, you supposed to sleep in here with us. We got the big room with 2 beds, child. We want you to be another bed. So they call her and FaceTime her. She ends up coming back downstairs. Kyle and Chris end up going to bed. Everybody wakes up in the morning. So now Danielle is outside reporting to Carl and Lindsay what's going on, okay? So she tells them basically everything that Kyle said the night before, and they're upset. So Carl is like, that business literally would be in shambles if they would not be able to run that company without me. Now, while I think Carl is an asset to the business, I definitely don't think that he's irreplaceable. Okay, because the stress that he's causing Kyle, losing contracts and things like that, I'm pretty sure that's not the first time that happened. And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think Carl should be working for a company that sells alcohol if you're an alcoholic. That is the biggest oxymoron ever. But child, I don't know. Kyle, just fire him and move on with your life. I don't know. I'm sick of it. So as we keep going, everybody is waking up. Chris is outside doing some type of yoga pose of sorts, or legs crossed Indian style outside. And Danielle goes out there to see what he's doing and professes her, space to be his wingman if she needs him to be, because apparently he got rejected at the bar the night before. Then we see Gabby talking to her sister Danielle that they're only 21 months apart. And they get along really well, but, she's sad her sister has moved to New Orleans, and they literally did everything together. So she's trying to adjust to that, and she tells her about meeting Danielle, the cast member on the show, that obviously was dating her boyfriend at the same time, unbeknownst to Danielle, that he actually had a girlfriend. So they kind of talk about that and chat. Then they all get up and get ready for this tea party. So they're going to have a tea party, talk about a couple of things, dress up. They have this guy named Danny come and be their waiter throughout the time. So during this tea party, they talk about butt things, threesomes, if you will. Nobody cares about any of that. But for some reason, poor little Sam, everybody seemed to point at her for all the things. Like, so the first, for a threesome, Paige said she would want to do it with Amanda. Then it was Sierra's turn. Sierra said, who's most likely to do butt things? And she said Sam. And Sam was like, I would literally actually not let anybody ever violate me like that. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they're just playing around pulling homegirl's leg. Then Maya is asked, who would you least likely want your son to date? And she says Sam too. I'm like, well, what do y'all got against Miss Sam? Sam has been sitting there minding her business. Okay, she has been minding her business, and y'all are just giving Sam too much. It's team too much, okay? But then they get into a conversation about Amanda and her fertility, which I was blown away. Like, my heart goes out to Amanda. She talked about, and this is how most women are. We think because we're younger. I think Amanda is still in her, she just turned 30, or she's turning 30 this season. She's young, vibrant. She says she stopped her birth control, and they were just like, whatever happens, happens. And then she discovered that she may have some, there are some complications with her. She's not getting pregnant right away. And then Paige asked her a hard question of, what if the doctor says that you just can't have any children? And Amanda looked pretty sad, and she kind of said, well, we just have to deal with that when the time comes. And Danielle says, well, listen, you have a whole team behind you. We're all here to support you. And I'm like, girl, Danielle, you are just so supportive. You are such a good friend. I hope these heifers do half of what you do for them, because you really be on it. So meanwhile, with the guys, Chris and Kyle are out, and they're going to be drinking, and they're at some brewery or whatnot. So that's kind of where they're going. The guys are doing their own thing. The girls are doing their own thing. So we'll see how this kind of wraps up. So we finalized this tea party where, after they finished talking about Amanda and her fertility stuff, then Danielle, they start talking about the whole situation with Carl, Kyle, Danielle, Lindsay, all this crazy stuff. So they basically, Danielle is like, yeah, Kyle shouldn't have said what he said, blah, blah, blah. And Maya is basically like, why are we even letting this rule our situation, like our fun? Like, y'all need to let it go. And Amanda says, listen, I understand that those are your friends, and you really want to stand up for them, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what goes on in the day-to-day operations of Loverboy. There's been situations where, outside of me and Kyle, Carl has done some pretty, alarming things around other people in the business, and they've told us about it. So it's not us just coming up with stuff out of the crack of our ass. Like, this man has really been doing the wrong thing for quite some time, and Kyle has overlooked so many things that if he worked for another company, this stuff wouldn't fly, frankly. And even Sierra was like, well, didn't Carl have issues at other jobs too? Like, why is this such a big, alarming thing for everybody? And so I just feel like Danielle just needs to mind her business at this point. So now Danny done left. He ain't cleaning up nothing for them. And I don't know what he served them. He came on camera for like 2 minutes. Sam talks about Josh, the trainer guy. He's going to meet them at this, place, I guess the brewery where Kyle and Chris are. So Kyle and Chris are there. Maya's boyfriend Oliver and his friend Rob show up. All the girls get dressed and meet them there. So everybody says they're high and niceties and all that. So Sierra is over there playing checkers with Chris, okay? Chris, honey, I'm going to need you to, your horny meter is like way up here, and you are just not reading the room. Like, he asked Sierra, what does she do for a living? She said a nurse. So then he says something about, oh, you're going to take care of me, blah, blah, blah. So she basically gave him the G code. She said, listen, that is so unattractive to me. I can't stand when I tell somebody what my occupation is. I think that's the lamest pickup line, when dudes be like, oh, can you take care of me since you're a nurse and da-da-da-da-da. She was like, I literally hate it. So then he says, oh my gosh, well, what if I lose my breath and I pass out? She was like, I mean, technically, if you pass out or whatever, I would give you, I would help you or whatever. He was like, oh, so mouth to mouth? Okay, wrong road, Chris. Wrong freaking road. What is your problem, sir? You have no game. Like, unbelievable. You're about to have a P less summer if you keep this up. Because you already done struck out with Sam. Sam thinks that you're like a homeboy, pound for pound. Then you're striking out with Sierra. Like, who else is single in the damn house? Well, technically Maya is single because it came out at Watch What Happens Live, where she did an interview where she said that Oliver been cheating on her the whole time. He was messing with other chicks, y'all, but that's a whole nother thing. Apparently, homeboy was up in Montauk the whole time. They was out there for Summer House filming, and so he was at the house often. So with that being said, he was out here messing around with other chicks. And I'm like, wow, you got to be real bold with your girl being on TV, sir. But whatever. Moving on. Kyle and Amanda are talking, and Amanda reveals to Kyle that Danielle told her that she already told Carl and Lindsay what was the goings on with the night before. Like, she told them everything that they talked about. And so Danielle overhears them talking. She's like, oh, I hear them talking about me. I'm like, girl, aren't you tired of eavesdropping? Like, girl, let it go. Please let it go. But then Amanda was like trying to get Kyle to talk to Danielle. She's like, you guys just need to talk about it. Like, I don't want it to ruin you guys' friendship because of Carl and Lindsay. Like, this is ridiculous. And even Sam was like, well, I get it that you don't want to be involved. Like, you don't want to seem like, because Danielle kept saying, I don't want to seem like the person that's being messy if I don't tell them what's going on. Like, I got to tell them they're my friends, which I get that. But I feel like Danielle is just involving herself way too much. Like, you don't work with Carl every day. You don't see what he's doing. So I just think that she's sticking herself into this. This is an A and B conversation. She need to see her way out. And that's that on that. So now we see Sam talking to Josh. Josh has finally arrived. He's very handsome, actually. He doesn't really drink, but they're going to the bar. I don't know what he got, but they're talking. So they go sit down and talk. Sam is like telling him all this stuff that I don't really care about. And she's aligning him with being maybe the person that's going to take her from having a roster. You know, the whole goal is to not have a roster and to have that one person. I'm like, girl, no shade, but Sam, I don't really see you as being cute enough to be having a roster, honey. But hey, it's dudes that ain't cute and they got a roster. Moving on. Anyway, Danielle sits down with Chris and she's like, so what did you guys do today? And he's like, yeah, Kyle and I were talking and we pretty much talked about like having a lot of fun times this summer and like drinking and having fun. She's like, yeah, well, whatever. I need to talk to him. He needs to fess up to this and whatever. And he's like, well, maybe just not talk about that with him today. Like, that's not really what he's on right now. She's like, well, how can you be having all this? She's like, how can he be having all this fun and he hasn't had the conversation? I'm like, girl. So Kyle is sitting down and all the ladies are sitting there. So she tries to attempt to she's like, I don't want to talk to him. But then she tries to talk to him. And Kyle is like, you're not listening to me. So I'm going to go ahead and head on out. And he storms off in typical Kyle fashion. So the ladies are telling her, they're like, listen, I get it. I don't like that Kyle said some of the things that he said either. But at the end of the day, are Lindsay and Carl out here protecting you the way that you always bend over backwards, back, forth, and forth for them? And she's sitting there speechless. She's like, well, I haven't really had any situations where they've had to defend. Yes, you did. You had one with Sierra. Did Lindsay defend you? She kept putting you in the middle of it for you to defend her, but she didn't defend you. She actually walked out of the room after Sierra threw the drink. So I don't know, friend. I don't know what your problem is. I think you need to go ahead and reassess your attachment to Lindsay and Carl because it's looking like a throuple. Just saying. So to close this up, Kyle, after he stormed out, and Paige and Sierra and all the girls basically let Danielle know that while you over here ride a dime for daggone Carl and Lindsay, they not going to do the same for you. They felt like if they were at that dinner the other night and the tables were turned, they would have just sat there and said absolutely nothing. So everybody goes back to the house. Danielle gets in the bed. She texts Rob saying, I'm over this. He says, what's wrong? She says, I'll tell you tomorrow. What was the point of you even telling him? I can't stand women. This just so emotional. Girl, if you ain't want to talk to the man about it now, why you ain't just say something tomorrow? Whatever. I'm moving on. So Kyle, of course, is partying. Amanda goes to bed and she says, Kyle, come tuck me in. Girl, he ain't hear you. They all hanging out partying. Sam take her dirty shoes and getting on the counter dancing and whatnot, very offbeat. And Josh is in his phone and she's upset that, he checks all the other boxes. He's such a nice person. But she don't want to be with him because he didn't get up on the table and dance with her. Girl, grow up. Girl, grow up. Grow up, okay? They end up sleeping in the same bed together, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't no action going on there because he said, do you mind if I just go to sleep? I'm like, girl, he might just not be into you either. So he's waiting to leave the next morning. She outside sunbathing with Amanda and tells her, yeah, he's not the one. Girl, you ain't either. Moving on. So Danielle is in the kitchen. She's talking about how awkward it is. She don't like it, but she don't really want to talk to Kyle. But her and Kyle end up talking outside. So I think it was really needed for them to have a conversation. And Kyle basically tells her, listen, you don't know what goes on. Like, there's a lot of things that I don't talk about because it's business stuff, but Carl has really been dropping the ball. Like, I literally texted him, I'm done, and he said, maybe I just need to fire Carl because it's just a lot. Like, our friendship, I think, I think that Kyle really has a problem with Lindsay. I think Kyle thinks that Lindsay is pretty much the catalyst to a lot of this stuff with Carl. Like, Carl changing and shifting his mindset. But while Lindsay may be a part of it because Lindsay is just a category 10 tornado storm all by herself. Everything got to be about her. Everything is all about Lindsay all the time. She don't see nobody else's point of view. It's all about what she thinks, And while that may be true in a lot of instances, I do think that she is definitely trying to support Carl in the best way. And I think that what Kyle has to understand as his friend is that Lindsay is his woman now. And the good news is this is your business. You can, however, even though Carl thinks that he's irreplaceable like Beyonce, okay, you actually feel that he's worthless from how you acting. So it should be rather easy for you to let him go and find somebody else. That way you can hire somebody that's not your friend. If you have issues with them, you can go ahead and fire them as you need to and replace them as you need to. And I think that's probably going to be the best thing for both of y'all because clearly you have some issues with his performance. Clearly Danielle just needs to mind her business and not stick her tooth into any of y'all business because at the end of the day, she has her own business too. So what is she going to do? What if Lindsay worked for her and she wasn't doing the right thing? Would she like it if you were coming and giving her advice that was unsolicited? No. There's a difference between being a good friend to somebody and just being all up in the Kool-Aid and don't know the flavor. Mind your business, Danielle. This is something that Carl, Lindsay, and Amanda and Kyle need to manage. Mainly Carl and Kyle. Because all these other people in the peanut gallery, it's not really helping out the situation. But anyway, y'all, thank y'all for watching. Please, please, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with anybody else that's watching Summer House too. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.